A Beastly Comedy, Canto 1.15. Tumultuous the echoes rang, the corpses carried loud, the unresisting bodies that let out lamenting moans, with demons by the market stalls together as a crowd. The primal cuts and offal were on offer with the bones, the beastly spawn devouring flesh the merchants tried to sell, promoting healthy options like the leaner meat of clones. But why discerning customers, the hungry clientele, were dragging human slaves along the floor I could not guess, the God-forsaken servants with no courage to rebel. A woman turned her head away, abhorrence to suppress, her master buying sirloin steak to be ingested raw, but she could not avoid the sight, unsee the crimson mess, affected by the falcon fist, persuaded by a claw, to look the devil in the eyes as he consumed the meat, to stare at chunks between his lips, and not the darkened floor. Unconscious and immobile men were hanging by their feet from hooks across the ceiling, while their bodies being flayed were salted, dried, and tenderized, the organs seasoned sweet. The others on the shoulders of the demons moaned, afraid, transported from the metal tanks, containers round and wide, to slaughterhouses where the sheep confront the screaming blade. A hardened face conceals the pain, yet could not fool my guide, who knew that absence of distress, in settings so extreme, reveals no strength, no courage shows, but tender thoughts denied. The self-deceptive silence when the urge is strong to scream, but frozen is the human voice, reactions warm, decreased, as terse replies the dreaming eyes emotionless may seem. The poet said, "You need to know the meaning of this feast, appalling though the banquet is. The menu's well designed to cater for the callous taste, the mindset of a beast. So find the valor lost above, the kindness left behind, and ask the woman why she has a collar and a chain, compelled to watch the dinner sold, but wishing she was blind." Approaching thus the spectral pair, prepared for truth profane, I hushed the voice advising me to make a quick escape, the altar from my psyche split, a ghost to bear to pain. The crowd, excited by her plight, was jeering, mouths agape, as she was reaching for the floor with stubs of broken nails, and like a hound with bones to hide, the surface tried to scrape. The dagger's sharp expressed delight, the slashing demon tails, her stomach crushed by heavy hooves, intestines splattered out, and as I sobbed, the howling mob was laughing at her wails. While grabbing at her bowels torn, the organs kicked about, the woman crawling caught the gut and stuffed it back inside, like I collected remnants of my fortitude to shout, "Desist from torment, ghastly fiends, our insolence abide. Untainted, no, but living minds are keen to ask her why she has become a slab of meat, lambasted, kicked, and tied." The giant held his harness tight, and snorted in reply, "Were you appointed by the gods to stand above her crimes, a judge, a saint to stroke her back, deceptive tears to dry? Or have you come to gawp at her who yields 100 times, because forgotten deeds remain, a shame within her soul? Or even worse, by writing verse, with forced and musty rhymes, describing such a woman whom you never could console, to prove you have compassion for the silences we chew, believing that unscathed in hell with Dante you may stroll? You sterile filth, licentious brute, a foreskin damp with glue. Determine who deserves delight and who to go insane, but ask if there are standards of behavior always true. The trollop is not tortured so that you could bliss attain, or find a final moral stand, a reason to be stern, an answer for religious doubt, dilemmas false inane. The pilgrims prying into pain are none of our concern, but parents cursing burdens borne toward their daughters cold, from childhood sent to sunless streets in bed their bread to earn, or failing to provide the cash, to rough procurers sold. This woman humbled heaven knew a baby on her breast, and yet the child by beatings raised, by rigid rules controlled, an infant like an image dreamt, conceived to be possessed. Awake but sleeping, seeing life a constant state of war, she did not dare stand up against the men who girls molest. Oppression was tradition, and corruption was in law, but with a voice to crush the hills, injustice could be fought, deciding not to yield before no girl is called a whore. Has she deserved a chance to speak, and facts again distort, to change the chosen ignorance, recall eternal death, the reason why her kidneys, heart, and liver can be bought? Remembrance is a searing sword, but when she does forget, the weak maternal bond remains, anxiety sustains, uncertain as she searches for the meaning of regret. The fracture in the wordless mind intensifies her pains. The muteness she adopted as the penance for neglect, and slaughtered she is sold as steaks, as I consume the reins. But if you want to know the mare the merchandise inspect, I could provide a taste of her before we start the hunt. What shall it be, my darling boy, a maiden to dissect? Or do you seek the horse's fount, the juices from her cunt? The devil kicked the mother, who succumbed without a sound, while he, exhausted or annoyed, assailing gave a grunt, and trampled on the body smashed, unmoving on the ground. He grinned and yanked the chain again, a hoof upon her head. But as the nasal septum cracked, the monster madly frowned. Aware, I thought, of work increased, because the judge was dead. A blasted shame, she fell so fast, but brothers, do not fret. Her purpose is to perish by the mongrels being fed, but from the flesh remaining warm, you may yet pleasure get. It is not necrophilia, if dormant she must lie, surviving in the helpless state, the spirit staying set, responsive when you pluck the teeth, caress the creamy thigh. Because her body reproduced by cloning is the same, I reckon there could be a soul inside that cannot die, the wench awoken screaming like she knows unending shame. But even if the person is another woman torn, no essence being ferried from the corpse to face the flame, it only matters that she is nutritious for the spawn. So take the carcass in your arm, imagine her asleep, transfix the vixen with the horn, pathetic little prawn. I quivered at the smell of death, the corpses in a heap, a statue in the middle stuck or frozen in defense, with blood of water on the cheeks as I began to weep. But who is I? A marble frame, a ghost behind a fence, a mesh of stained emotions and presumptions in my sight, and far beyond the wires a world the dreamer wants to sense. Attraction and aversion in the primal prison fight, but huddled on the floor I was, a breath and nothing more, united with the shadows as an aspect of the night. A man became a beaming light and said, I am a door, so enter me to leave the cave. Oh no, the verses lie. It happened in my head alone, a whisper in the wall. Instead a skull, fragmented but poetic, heaved a sigh. Obstreperous and combative you demons walk about, and yet a woman you were born, molestous to defy. The essence of the splattered clone you have not figured out, A subject of contrition, you transfer remorse to her, a spirit to herself a beast, and flesh that cannot shout. Tormented by dishonor, though you ignorance prefer, discreet, divided into forms, containing guilt and hate. Did this occur? The reason fails, and details are a blur. But surely I did not accept the sausage that he ate. Or she, the shrieking soldier scared, insane and in retreat, the monster as the victim whose regret does not abate. The turpitude too much to bear, it seemed I had no feet. As Satan took me by the hand, consoling Iam's hissed. A poet in your heart I am, but not a piece of meat, for flowing through the arteries, convincing you exist. A process in your brains I am, to guide our verse away. And so the pilgrim followed, as he hardly could resist, the promise of redemption, or at least a brighter day. As stronger than the seeker was a vision with a will, confusion making likely that illusions we obey. Or maybe it was Dante who temptation was to kill, while deeper into fire we went, my wounded wings to singe. A blackbird in a cage, my soul, and singing, staying still. My face a wooden cover, with its furrows carved to cringe.